How is the throttle on your BSA? Mine has got quite a bit of slack in it. And to be fair, it wasn't long ago that the throttle freeplay was adjusted by Ash. But to me, this just seems excessive. Let's compare. BMW R9T Racer, 1970s CB750, Yamaha XT, Kawasaki, Ducati, Yamaha R1, another BMW, and back to the BSA. I think it needs adjusting. Let's adjust it. You are going to need a 10mm spanner and an 8mm spanner. Underneath your throttle assembly is your throttle cable. There is a rubber sheath that you just need to pull back. If it doesn't pull back nicely, just rotate the sheath a little just to free it off and then give it a little pull. This is your throttle cable adjuster. You won't be able to adjust it by hand because it has a lock nut holding it tight. So I'm going to use the 10mm on the lock nut and the 8mm on the actual adjuster, and I'll just break them free. What you can do now is move the adjuster with your fingers. You shouldn't have to use a spanner to do it. And what this is doing is it's lengthening the cable just by a few millimeters, which is also yet less slack on your throttle. What we're not looking for is an absolutely tight throttle. We don't want the actual throttle pulling on the throttle cable. The reason we don't want it pulling is because you are going to turn the steering on your motorcycle. That in turn is going to pull on the cable, and it may end up opening the throttle body on your intake and increasing your RPMs. So you do want a little bit of slack, but you don't want it super tight so that it causes, again, during turning, your RPMs to increase because you won't be able to shut it down. There won't be any slack. So here what I'm doing is I'm just opening mine up by a few mil, and every time I've done a couple of rotations, I am then opening and closing the throttle twice in order to let the cable settle, and then I'm checking. That's incredibly different than what I had a minute ago. My throttle feels so much better already. It's going to feel fantastic under glove, and when I'm feathering the clutch as I come out of a junction, I'm going to feel that my engine is a lot more responsive without that massive amount of slack. You can see that I've left some slack in it, so I don't want it pulling on the throttle cable. Once I've got my adjustment to where I want it to be, what you can do is hold this one in position because you don't really want the adjuster moving around. You've got it set, you're happy. Bring the lock nut closer to it. And again, you'll see me with the 8mm just holding the adjuster in position. Bring the lock nut to it. Then grab your 10mm, and we're not moving the adjuster, we're holding it in position. We're just using the lock nut to pinch against it. So you'll see the adjuster's not moving. I'm not letting it move. There we go. The lock nut is now pinched against it. Then recheck your throttle. So it does have some slack, just not as much as before. And then we want to take this sheath and just pop it back over. So I have some slack. That's going to feel fantastic. As any good mechanic will tell you, double check your work. What I intend to do is run the motorcycle, and I'm going to move the steering lock to lock to ensure that the adjustment that I've made on the throttle cable isn't causing the bike to increase in RPMs, which could cause crazy bad things to happen when you're cornering. Well done. Top job and safe to go back on the road.